I now like to ask you, Arati, to also, we have two fireside chats coming up. Mr. Kamal Bali, President and Managing Director, Volvo Group India, and then Ashish Khushu, Chief Technology Officer, L&T Technology Services. So I think you will start with Mr. Bali. We're really looking forward to this. And after that, it'll be our expert panel, which will be short, and then we have a lunch break. Okay.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's great to see you with us today.
Hi, Arati. Hi, everyone.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Bali, we're going to start with you, just to introduce you to the audience that we have online, but also here in person, just so you know it's a little bit different to last year. We have a small physical audience in the room who are listening to your words, as well as, of course, our online audience. To introduce Mr. Kamal Bali, who is the President and Managing Director of Volvo Group India, also the Chairman of the CITIS Partnership. We just had our panel on the Sweden-India Transport Innovation Partnership, and you are, of course, the leading light in that partnership, and also the Chairman of the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in India. So you wear many hats in this discussion today and can actually shed light on many parts of the discussion in terms of where we stand today ahead of the climate dialogue, Glasgow, and where we can go together as a collective party of actors. Starting with that, Volvo, of course, is working in many places and is doing many things when it comes to innovation, technology, and transport development. I'd like to ask you, what is especially important for countries like India that are undergoing so much progress and transformation, especially when it comes to transport systems? What can be done with countries like India in partnership with Volvo to achieve collective climate ambition?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you, Arati, for having me here. Pleasure to always to be on a panel like this. You're right, Arati. Indeed, India today is in the midst of socio-economic transformation not witnessed in decades. When it comes to some of the elements of sustainability, we now have several programs going at an unprecedented pace, including one of the largest clean energy programs for achieving 175 gigawatts of clean energy capacity by 2022. We just heard the announcement of a $4 billion production-linked incentive focused on electromobility and hydrogen fuel cells, as well as advanced technology components. The authorities have committed to traffic safety by committing to a goal of cutting road fatalities by 50% within this decade. And just last week, we had our Prime Minister talking about Gati Shakti National Master Plan, a potentially path-breaking initiative that strikes at the very root of decades-old problem in execution of infrastructure projects in India. So I think this is very important for a sustainable future. Fortunately, Volvo Group in India is very closely entwined with national imperatives of clean and efficient mobility, transportation, new infrastructure, and we have been serial investors in India with presence across trucks, construction equipment, buses, Volvo Penta, and we have brought in new paradigms. So another important ingredient of our presence in India is our global technology services, through which we have about 2,500 people there. And importantly, we also have a Campex site, the only site outside Gothenburg in Bangalore. And I think this is really, and this is going to play a key role in the future development of Volvo Group in India, be it innovation, sustainability, or digital transformation agenda. And I think, I believe the future for all of us in India appears very, very promising. And I think Volvo has a very, very interesting role to play.
Thank you. Of course, now that we have Volvo Campex, like you said, in Bangalore, having that startup bridge between Sweden and India with Campex in Gothenburg, the future is bright in terms of how to cross-fertilize dialogue. But I want to come back to something that we touched upon during the course of the day when it comes to Volvo, but also in terms of the other parties we have with us today, which has been the reality of the last 2 years during COVID. Now, of course, COVID has hit India in a very hard way. All of us in the room, of course, even in Stockholm, have our own experience with what has happened in the last 2 years. But Volvo has done amazing things. when it comes to leadership. In the last 2 years, of course, in India and globally, businesses have been hit. Supply chains have been disrupted. At the same time, local teams and communities have been vulnerable. Lives have been lost, but so have jobs. Volvo has actually stepped in from a leadership perspective and provided safety nets to your teams. Kamal, I know what you've been doing with the COVID buses, the medical buses around Bangalore. I'd really like for you to highlight some of the work that's happened during these last 2 years, where Volvo has really taken, to be fair, a below-the-radar role in creating safety and leadership, and something that we would like to highlight today.
Yeah, Arati, thank you very much for bringing that up. I think these have been truly unprecedented times. Fortunately, as we speak, we have more than 1 billion vaccinations already administered in India, and infection numbers have been well in control since the last 5 months after going through a tumultuous second wave, as you all know. I think the world, including India, is at one of the most defining crossroads of change and transformation. At one level, we have this continuing post-pandemic human and humanitarian challenges on top of climate change, inequitable growth, polluted cities, while at the other end of the spectrum, we have so many boundless opportunities coming our way. Clearly, we are all living in a paradoxical world, to say the least, with a two-speed engine, one speed going in a direction which is extremely positive, and a lot of new things are coming up. But I'm very satisfied, as you rightly said, the way we have dealt with the challenges, starting with the safety and well-being of our employees and families, but we did not leave it there. We went also with an outreach to communities, and we started a 100-bed COVID care center in Bangalore in partnership with IKEA and the government of Karnataka. We supported a number of hospitals to set up ICU beds because we believe that I think it is very important to constantly be in touch and lift the morale of people around all of us, because ultimately in such times you win if everybody wins. And I think that was very, very important for Volvo Group. Here I want to really delve on the topic of values, and I think which is where leadership comes in. I think it is in this critical moments that values come to play in full force. As a leader, it was very easy for me to prioritize people and their safety along with care for our customers above everything else. The reason was simple. This is core to Volvo's way of working, and thus it was very easy for me to get support from everybody across the organization, whether it was my team in India or the global management. With this in place, it was amazing to see how employees rose to the occasion, and despite all the adversities, they were innovative to come together and make sure that we maintain our commitments not only to our customers, but also go out to the villages and communities around and help and lend a helping hand. So I think that's been one of the things. I think it's the values which drive us along. So to cut the long story short, I think leadership is today not merely about motivating and inspiring your people. It's not merely about change. I think it's about transformation. And I think it's about the boundless opportunities which you get by doing good. And I think this is something which we learned. And I'm sure the future is going to be marked by new work cultures, collaborative work styles, and cities has been a phenomenal example, the way we have worked over the last couple of years, even during these times. So I think we've been lucky and lucky to do our bit for the society and for everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think what you raised also and you touched upon is how innovation takes place best when everyone is feeling safe and they feel that they can actually focus on the job at hand rather than worry about, like you say, the very real concerns of education, health, and job security. So what Volvo has done, something that is not talked about enough. I would like to personally also congratulate Volvo and say that really it's a role model for leadership in tough times.
Thank you.
But Kamal, you also wear 3 hats. You are Volvo, you are Swedish Chamber of Commerce in India, and you are CITES. Now, we've just had the Sweden Innovation Transport Safety Partnership panel discussion. You have been a critical element of driving cities forward, bringing together 15 different organizations from the triple helix model: industry, academia, and government agency. Of course, we're very lucky to have the support of the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways from its inauguration to Vision Zero Academy last year in November, and hopefully in the future with the next achievements that we have. What would you like to see? CITIS, of course, has now been project-led. Evidence-based research is underway. We would like to take this and lift it to policy advisory, to strategic engagement, based on evidence taken at the research level. What would you like to see CITIS achieve in the coming next steps?
Yeah, Arati, I think CITIS has been one of the most important, I would say, initiatives which I have in the last, in my career, which I have been associated with. I think it is an example on how partnerships, or the true triple helix model, which the Swedish people talk about, how it works. And I think this is actually working on ground. But I think, as I said, almost every sector today is going through a paradigm shift due to digital transformation and other imperatives impacting the sector. For instance, in our case, in case of the world of mobility, it is connectivity, electromobility, alternate energy carriers, and automation. I think these are some of the imperatives which are completely transforming the way the mobility is going to happen in future. So this requires really to put everything together. This requires the coming together of many different competencies, and CITIS has been a good example when we took on the problem of solving the issue of safety. It started with solving the issue of safety. Of course, it is growing on to become a much wider and a much bigger platform. So I think it is the same with the future intelligent safety systems. Those will take us through the Vision Zero ambition, thanks to the CITIS initiative. I think what I would like to see going forward is how some of the initiatives which have been taken under the CITIS umbrella, how various actors, whether it is the authorities, the government, the policymakers, the vehicle manufacturers, or citizens at large, how we can all come together to implement some of the findings which we get out of the several projects which we have undertaken. So I think that's one. The other is taking this knowledge and spreading it far and wide. And I think that's very, very important, because all the good work done, whether it was to start with saving lives on safety, I think this should be implemented across. And I think this should be one of the major learnings out of CITIS, and Bangalore and India are the right places, and in fact is one of the right locations to do a lot of work together. And with Sweden and India partnership, I feel we can take this whole initiative at a much faster pace and increase the pace of work which we are doing. So I think I want to really thank all the partners here, the CITIS partners like Chalmers, RISE, Indian Institute of Technology, Indian Institute of Science, Ericsson, Volvo Group, Saab, Autoliv, Altair, Manipal Hospitals, Tech Mahindra, all of them, I think, who have played a tremendous role in really taking CITIS to a new level. And I'm sure we will continue the good work.
Thank you so much, Kamal. And again, I have no problems with Bangalore. I have a personal preference for Bangalore in India. So I look forward to collaborations happening in Bangalore in the future. Thank you for being with us today. Namaste.
Thank you.
For our next discussion, Mr. Ashish Khushu, Chief Technology Officer, L&T Technology Services. Thank you for being with us today. You also might have heard the inauguration panel where we had discussions on the ways in which we can move forward, and the CITIS partnership panel that came right before our discussion about the need of evidence-based research, replication, and concrete roadmaps. L&T Technology Services, of course, is doing much work in the transportation space, and we spoke last week about how this can be moved beyond traditional thinking to new age thinking or frontier thinking about transportation in a safety perspective. Tell us more about that.
Thanks, Arati. Yes, I did listen to the panel before and found the conversations fairly interesting. I being an engineering services company, what excites us is the core engineering, which forms the nucleus of many, many things that we are talking right now. So when I look at safety, and I wanted to give you a slightly different perspective to safety in the transportation segment of the future, and a topic which I believe is not really talked as much in the public forums as much as it should. And that pertains to the vehicles which are going to come our way in the next 2 to 3 years. A large number of vehicles that we are going to use on the roads will have some or the other features which are in the zone of what we call a certain level of autonomy, L1, L2, or L3. There would be functions which the car would be wanting to take on its own, ability of the car to be taking some decisions in terms of what it needs to do or how it needs to react in a particular situation. Now, safety starts here. The question is, if the car is moving from point A to point B, and I'm just taking an example of a car, it could be a commercial vehicle or a truck or a bus. If a car is moving from point A to point B, the function of a car is to go from point A to point B, and while it does so, it has to accelerate, it has to steer, and it has to brake. These are the three basic functions of a car. Now, when you're driving a car, when a person is driving a car, and there are many situations which happen where you end up braking instinctively when you sight an object or a person or a situation. Now, when you're going to give the power of autonomy or software-defined cars, the minimum that you expect from those cars is a reaction time which is equal or better than human instinct in terms of braking or accelerating when such a situation occurs. Now, that's really where safety starts. A software-defined car in executing a function which it autonomously, it falls in the autonomous category, can it brake in a time which is lesser than human instinct to save time? So really, safety starts there at the very core of the way you're going to design some of these vehicles in the future. And it's not really only about software. Now, that's really the misconception. A large number of people not working in this area always think about that, it's software, it is ADAS, or it is V2X. It's a lot about mechatronics. It's a lot. Is your software capable enough to take a decision in real time and then pass a command to a braking system to say brake within a certain time frame over a certain distance? These are very, very complex problems. So whenever we talk of safety in the transportation segment of the future, majority of the time we are talking about areas which skirt this issue. But this is where the crux is. Technically, very, very challenging, very exciting. I mean, we love the excitement of working in such areas, but that's the design problem. Now, you could have whatever type of other infrastructure which would make you safe in and around or within the car. But if the car of the future does not have the ability to take such decisions in real time, equal or lesser than the way a human instinct would have reacted, then you have a problem. So I think safety of the vehicles of the future, this aspect needs to be discussed a lot more, deliberated a lot more, and this is where the whole discussion starts.
Thank you so much. So you have Kamal Bali here, of course, Chairman of CITIS, Vehicle Instinct and Intuition being raised by L&T Technology Services. Thank you so much for that intervention. Thank you both for being with us today and joining the India-Sweden Innovation Day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arati.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bali, and thank you, Mr. Khushu, also for your great support for India-Sweden Innovation Day to make this happen. So really, really thankful for your fantastic insights. Looking forward to drive this car of the future, and hopefully with much more safer, vehicles of the future, not just the car.